Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closures.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Lori T. Potts, a confidence coach, communication trainer, and job search expert who empowers women to ditch people pleasing, communicate with authority, and climb careers confidently. 5 years ago, she escaped corporate bro culture, underpayment, and toxic boss, only to get fired at COVID start, then pivoted to transform 100 plus careers with science backed strategies. Her Job Search Accelerator cuts search times from 6 to 12 months to 3 months for 88% of her clients, and her training has equipped meta teams and TEDx speakers to command rooms and boost influence. With that being said, Lori, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you so much, Milan. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you. I was looking forward to the conversation. I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into all of this. And what I love to do with every single one of my guests is a bit of traveling back in time. So before you even had this company, tell us what the journey was like. What were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting this business?
Yeah, so I worked in marketing after I graduated, mostly because I lived in Idaho Falls at the time, and I really wanted to get into organizational development and training. But it being a small town, there just weren't a lot of those opportunities. And so I had done some marketing projects, and it was easier to get a marketing job than something in organizational development. So I worked in there for a while, and I just kept running into leader after leader who just shouldn't have been in leadership. They were either so introverted that they just weren't willing to like engage with me. They would always like hand me off to a different person if I had a question, or they were hyper micromanaging, like one polar opposite or the other. Um, but when I was working in the IT department when I was at school, I worked for a great boss, and him and I implemented some initiatives in the department to help them be more efficient, but also like work better together. And in a way, I kind of became his informal coach because he really appreciated my candor and willingness to provide honest feedback. And so I ended up going from doing that, having a baby, and then going back into the workforce after taking a break and focusing on school, and helped some TED Talk speakers, volunteered just for the Idaho Falls TED Talk event, TEDx event specifically. Um, for those people who don't know, TED Talks kind of functions like a franchise. So if you see like that TEDx on a stage, that name, it means that like people who are in a community wanted to host a TED Talk event, but it's not hosted like by the owners of TED Talk, right? So they get speaker coaches and event managers, and they put this together. They have people try out for these TED Talks, and then the coaches help these speakers to refine their messages. So I was one of those speakers. And then after I helped with those TED Talks, one of the speakers asked me to help her advance her career. She knew I was a great writer because I helped her refine her speech. So I helped her with her resume, and then later on helped her go from specialist to director and completely skipped management. And then in 2020, I was fired from my job in May of 2020, like right at the start of COVID. And so I decided to just go full on into my business and stop trying to be someone I wasn't. Like, I didn't want to work in marketing. I wanted to be someone that people turned to when they were stuck in their career. And even though, I had failed, I had learned a lot from those failures. And I hadn't been able to like implement a lot of the things that I had learned in corporate for myself, but I've been able to do that for other women. And that's just been amazing seeing the transformation that they've gone through.
This sounds like a combination of a lot that happened to you in the span of the last decade, though. But in a
Yeah,
way, it seems like the company firing you at the beginning of COVID, that was, it sounds like that was the final nudge that you really needed
it
to,
really was.
yeah, to hell with this. I'm just going to be an entrepreneur and do it myself. So,
Yeah.
You were basically forced to become a business owner. No, I like that.
I mean, I could have gone and, found a job, but
Yeah, sure.
it just wasn't, and in marketing during COVID, it was easy to, still find jobs because everyone was online during that time, right? Like those companies were growing during COVID. So I probably could have gotten a remote job doing marketing still, but I didn't want to try to be someone who I wasn't. I just wanted to lean into what I really wanted in my life.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it definitely takes courage to even step out of the world of corporate. I always
Mhm.
joke about this, but in a way, I'm serious. I feel like all of the people that actually got into the world of corporate and stayed for more than 3 years, it's like mafia. Like you get in, but you never get out in a way. So it definitely takes courage for you to make that pivot and adjust as you go. So I love that. Now, Lori, obviously, it must have taken some adjustments for you to really find some clarity in terms of who it is exactly that you're going to help, what the service is going to look like, how you're going to fulfill on your promises, and all those big
Mhm.
questions that every single business owner has to ask themselves. So we're going to provide some clarity on that because that is my goal going into this next part of the episode. So just go ahead and tell us who is it exactly that is your ICP, but also what are the core offerings that you have in place for your clients.
Yeah. So mostly I focus on helping women. I do have testimonials from men who I've advised through their career as well and job search. But my focus is helping women to advance their careers. I grew up in a very chauvinistic household and grew up Mormon. And so the idea of what I was supposed to be as an adult or even as a child was very different from what my father expected. And so, and I just born assertive, like just very like one of those people that like it reminds me of how Sheryl Sandberg kind of talks about herself as a child in her book, because I know that's like a big comparison because Sheryl Sandberg's incredibly successful, but just like that comparison of her saying that like her siblings said at her wedding, like, we're employee number one and employee number two. Like I was always like trying to like when my sister and I would play mermaids, we would like be like I would be like, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're gonna do next. And so it was just very natural for me um, to put myself in a position of advisory. And the reason I focus on women is because of the bias that I faced as a child. Like, so often women are punished for being assertive when we're literally just being ourselves. We're speaking up when men do the same thing, they're right, they're not punished. They're just like, oh, they're just saying what they think, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I focus on women because of the struggles that I faced as a child and then the conditioning that I had to overcome to then become successful. And so I help other women do similar things.
Yeah,
So
but
overcome
those are
people
traits of a
pleasing.
natural born leader. I gotta say. So
Thank
I love
you.
that.
I mean, it's not easy working in corporate as a assertive woman. I think there's still a lot of barriers for us because there's still a lot of unconscious bias that occurs. So I help women to be able to overcome that level of unconscious bias and communicate with a level of warmth and competence that helps people to want to give them more opportunities. Um, so that's like my ideal client are usually women who are like between 2 and 15 years in the workforce. I don't really focus on executive coaching. That's just not my expertise. So I help people in the mid-range. And then your other question was about how I
Yeah,
go
about
about meeting
the
my
the, the
clients.
offerings and the way that people can actually end up working with you. But
Hmm.
if you would allow me, I also want to take a little bit of a different approach to this. Since we got such a good clarity in terms of who it is that you want to help, I just want to take a deeper look in terms of what the client actually feels like as being your
Hmm.
client, right? So what does the journey look like? What are the different stages? How long does it take for you to set them up for success? Tell us everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so it depends on what service they're paying for. So I do ultimately everything comes back to science-backed communication. So whatever I'm teaching, it's all backed up by psychology, and neuroscience. So that's really important to me. I did a lot of LinkedIn Lives for a while over the past few years. I haven't recently, but I did a lot of collaborations with other coaches and consultants. And a lot of the people that I talked to, some of them would say, like, I do what feels good for my clients. And okay, like there's a certain strength in following your intuition. But what about when you come across someone who hasn't necessarily had the same problem as you? How do you then guide them and coach them? And so everything that I do, I really try to stay up to date on the latest research regarding the workplace and communication, and that's something that's important to me. And anyone that I hire too, like what they're doing is backed up by psychology and human behavior, those types of things. So whenever someone works with me, they always know that anything, if they have a question, I can cite a source about why I choose to advise them to communicate in a certain way because of based on this research. And so whatever program they use, they can always know that they can ask me, hey, I saw this advice from a recruiter and it kind of contradicts what you said. And I can tell them why I advise the way that why I give them the advice that I do. So for example, job search program, it's 3 months because, like you said, 88% of my clients get interviews in 3 months or less. And so the program is that length so they can achieve the success that they need. Most job search is six to 12 months, so I've cut that in half or a fourth. And then
Mhm.
um, like for my communication coaching program or public speaking coaching program, that is also 3 months. I did at first do a month and a half, but every time I said like, hey, we have 2 more sessions, they're like, oh my gosh, that went by so fast. And so, yeah, I've decided to extend it to 3 months because it seems like that's the kind of support that my clients needed. So yeah, it takes about 3 months to get to a place where they feel like more confident and self-assured and they have a system after I stop coaching them that they can use regularly to still make progress. I don't want them to feel like they always have to have a weekly session with me in order to make progress. I think good coaches provide clients with systems after they coach them that can help them continue to make progress. So
Now
that's
this
something
is
that,
different. I gotta say this. I admire that you have this kind of perspective because for some reason, well, I mean, for some reason, I do get why that is, but there's a lot of professionals when it comes to your industry,
Mhm.
especially when you talk about like speaking, overcoming imposter syndrome, and all of these topics, where you get on the website and you see, yeah, you're gonna be working with me for the next year or two. And from my perspective, it makes the client feel like they're always going to be in a way dependent on you as their coach. So
Yeah,
this is very refreshing to see that no, there is a very clear outcome that we're looking for together, and we're going to achieve it in this period of time. So I absolutely love
yeah,
that. And also, let me ask
absolutely.
you this: there is a lot of professionals in your industry who are basically trying to balance the world of B2C, but also B2B,
Mhm.
because there is a lot of potential in that too. So I'm just curious, is this also something that you feel like you're heading towards? Would you like to also dabble into both worlds, or like would you rather just keep it to B2C?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, it's tricky with LinkedIn because that's essentially my website. I had a website a while ago, but I just didn't feel like it was serving me. So I'm trying to figure out what I want from that. But right now, LinkedIn is basically my landing page, right? And it's hard to target both B2B and B2C with all of your content and posts. And on top of that, right now, LinkedIn, like your posts just aren't reaching the same number of people that they did back in, say, 2021. It's just
Yeah.
awful right now. And so trying to speak, like, first of all, I have multiple different offerings for my B2C customers, public speaking, like internal advancement by adjusting your communication and job searching. And so I have these different offerings that I have to speak to. And then on top of that, I have to try and speak to HR or communication teams or the executive suite who see problems and want to solve them, don't know how to solve them. So most of my content is focused on B2C. Usually it's referrals that get me like the corporate training clients. I did a training for Meta a few years ago, and I also did training when I worked in corporate. It's just something that I naturally like was inclined towards. And so when I worked in marketing, I would do training for new employees and like for example, helping them keep clients accountable when they said they would give us like photo assets and things like that because we worked for a marketing agency and did like Facebook ads. Well, we need authentic content for you to be able to produce quality ads. So like I did training there too before I worked for Meta. Sorry, not worked for Meta. I did a training for them. And so it just is tricky to speak to both. So I haven't done a lot of corporate trainings. I would love to do more, but it's tricky to speak to everything all the time.
I love the way you put it because I mean, I would go as far as saying that it's pretty impossible, especially if you want to do it effectively though.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate this level of clarity and awareness because, and this is going to be relevant to you and anybody else listening to the podcast right now. The biggest issue when it comes to this and really juggling between the both worlds is that if you try to speak to everybody, you end up talking to nobody.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So, because this is a completely different strategy that you currently have in place, because what you do now really allows you to speak your client's language, literally,
Mhm.
right? Which is something completely different in terms of messaging and positioning and really communicating yourself as a coach effectively. So, I absolutely love that you said it. And also with you mentioning that LinkedIn has basically become your landing page right now.
Mhm.
Let's also dive into like what is everything that's happening on the front of marketing and maybe specifically that lead generation process that you have in place to have the ability to still onboard new clients and keep changing lives.
Yeah. Um, So I have an email list, so I'll do freebies and things like that. Or if I do a call with a prospect and they end up, saying, "Hey, I don't think we can work together right now," I'll say, "Well, I can always add you to my email list, give you communication tips, job search tips, on a monthly basis, so you're still getting the value from me, like even if we can't work together." So that's part of my lead generation. Um, I also offer free like career strategy calls. And again, I always add them to my email list if they want to have that. And then I would love to have more lead magnets. Like, hey, here's a freebie, and then add more people to my list. For whatever reason, tech has always been like my nemesis. So anytime I try to use something that's supposed to be very simple and no need to code, like Zapier, like literally that's like their tagline is no coding needed. Um, and just like anytime I try to use something like that, it just doesn't work. So I just need to find a new um, virtual assistant who is more reliable than my previous one to help me
Absolutely.
with those things. And I know it's like laughable to think like Zapier won't work for you. For whatever reason, I'm cursed. It
No,
just
I mean, to be honest, I just appreciate you being real. You know, it's quite
Mhm.
easy to come to a show or a podcast like this and, act like you have it all figured out. And there's
Yeah,
literally
I
nothing
feel
that you
like
have
there's
to
a
do.
lot of strength in being transparent about what our
Very.
lives are really like, especially as entrepreneurs. It can feel so lonely or solopreneurs. Like, I'm the only one struggling with all of this. Because, like we share our wins on social media to get clients. So, like, we can talk about our struggles every so often, right? But like that can't be the main thing. I
Absolutely.
think part of joining coaching programs, part of the strength and value that comes from those, if you're in a group coaching program, is hearing the challenges that other people are also facing. Like, oh, I'm not the only one that isn't getting interviews, or I'm not the only one that's struggling to answer interview questions. I'm not the only one who's spending an inordinate amount of time in meetings, and I'm trying to lessen that and take back my time. I'm not the only one that feels like I'm spoken over in meetings. Like, other people are experiencing those similar challenges. And with social media, whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, it's easy to just assume everyone's life is great. But when you really like call a friend on the phone and see how they're really doing, like all of that is just so curated. So just remember that like everyone else is struggling too.
And on the same note, it's also very easy to get in that wrong mindset of like, oh Jesus, I'm the only one who is going through this. How am I going to deal with
Mhm.
it? So this is actually one of the biggest benefits of doing group coaching programs and really leveraging on the potential of that model.
Yeah,
It's just a sense of belonging to something that is bigger than me.
right.
So I love that though. When it comes to, I'm also curious, what you've mentioned so far is everything on the side of organic. So have you maybe dabbled into paid ads on social media to try and create something more predictable, or what is your perspective
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, not I really value authenticity. That's one of my highest values. And I think I would need a system that would um really lean into that authenticity if I were to do paid ads. Um, Especially with LinkedIn, I think people really appreciate a level of authenticity compared to other platforms, just because so often we get those pitch slaps, right? Like you connect with someone and they immediately pitch you with something instead of like genuinely trying to get to know you. And that's how I work with all of my clients. I'll ask them questions about their career and genuinely get to know them. And if the challenges they're experiencing align with what I offer, then I'll say, hey, it seems like what I offer could help you based on the challenges that you've shared. And getting to know people on an intimate level is so alien on social media, I think, that that stands out. And so that's kind of why I choose not to do ads and solely focus on um, the organic social media.
This is
Because,
very interesting though. When you
yeah.
think about like the paid ads and the paid form of sourcing the leads, what specifically do you feel like would take away the authenticity? If somebody else is feeling the same way, I just want to pick your brains on
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. Um, I guess it's just because like it's harder to have like conversations like in
Mhm.
comments section. Like you can have conversations in comment sections,
Mhm.
but like people aren't going to share in the comment section for anyone on the internet, including their boss, to read about how terrible their boss is, right? And so they're going to be more genuine and authentic in a DM conversation with me if they're if
100%.
they know that that's, just in the DMs. Yes, it's still on the internet and someone could screenshot it and then share it, right? But like it's still a one-on-one
No,
conversation.
but it's
So
very
like that
different.
I think I'm thinking like more of that one-on-one conversation and how that makes a big difference in psychological safety and someone being willing to share intimate details about how they're struggling with their life or career.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Lori, before I let you go, let me ask you one last question. And I just want to build on top of the honesty that you provided me with the entire conversation. Obviously, there's a lot of ambition and a lot of goals that you're setting for yourself and for the future of the company and what you do with your clients. If you think about achieving the success that you want to see for yourself, what would you personally expect to really become the biggest challenge to making that happen?
Yeah. So I've been part of coaching programs where there are so many people on a call that everyone doesn't get attention. If I'm part of a coaching program, I expect to be able to talk to the coach every single time I'm on a call with them. Um, so part of the challenge of scaling a coaching business is being able to still have that intimate personal touch, and give people the customized advice that they need while also like scaling to be able to have lots of clients and income at the same time. So I'd say that's one of the challenges. Um, I think the most that I've had inside a program before is like five at a time. And it depended on how many people showed up each time. Most of the time they would all show up. But I just wanted them to be able to get the value that they wanted. So like I will close a program if there's too many people already signed up. Like,
Mm.
hey, I'm closing signups right now, but I'll open again in 3 months. So I'll let people know, hey, it's another time for you to sign up for the program. It's open. And I also, if people are like, oh, you closed it already, like, well, yeah, I want to be able to provide like that intimate value and that customized advice. And I can't do that if there are too many people. Maybe I could go up farther past five. But it just depends on like what questions they have that week and what challenges they're facing if I'm able to, address all the questions that people have. So I would say that's one of the main challenges is just being able to provide that value that I would expect of a program as well.
Yeah. What I like about what you just said is that you made it pretty obvious that even though the idea of scaling and the growth is very attractive to you, you still want to
Mhm.
make sure that it's impact driven and that
Right.
people are actually getting the attention that they need and the results that they're seeking. So
Yeah.
I love that. Do you feel like you're going to tackle this by, for example, having other coaches possibly working with the same methodologies, or what is the strategy to go about it?
Yeah. So one of the programs I was a part of had like an accountability coach. And so she was there half the time and the other coach was there half the time. So they kind of did like 1 week on, 1 week off. She would give the sales advice, go to a sales coaching program, and the other one would talk about being accountable and doing the things that help your business grow outside of just getting sales advice. So that could be one method is, hiring another coach. I have lots of coaches in my network. Like I said, I did a lot of LinkedIn Lives a while back. And so that's something that I could partner with someone on. I haven't really thought in deep into that. I haven't gotten to the point where I need like a co-coach, but yeah, in the future, that might be something that I consider.
Absolutely. I just realized that 5 minutes ago, I promised you that that was the last question. So I just
You're
have too
good.
many questions for you, Lori. I'm enjoying my time with you. So no, but seriously, at this point, let me just say thank you so much for taking the time today, sharing this lovely story with me and the entire audience here. If anybody from the listeners would like to get in touch with you, and who knows, maybe one day even work with you, what is the best way to go about it?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok or Facebook, um, or Instagram, at People Pleasing Coach. Or you can just find me by searching my name probably too.
Oh, people pleasing coach. That's catchy. That's good.
Yeah.
Quite
I
memorable.
changed it recently. It really resonated with my audience. Like I've had more people reach out and follow me without me reaching out to them first. Since like changing the first few words on my headline. Now it says stop people pleasing and live authentically. So that's like the first thing that people see. And really, like when it comes to confidence and communication coaching, so often what is standing in women's way is the people pleasing. And so I just decided to speak to that pain point, and that's really resonating with my audience. So that's kind of what I'm going for right now.
Smart. Again, it comes down to the
It
messaging.
does.
I love it. Well, Lori, thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for me to be here.
Beautiful. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from zero to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing, and I'll see you on the next one.